What is going down, my YouTube family? It is your boy Zary from Zary's Mobile Gaming, and I'm coming at you today to bring you a little change. I was doing demons on the revamped news series, but with Solius coming out, I want to make sure I got orcs out. So we're going to get all the orcs out today. Before we get into this orc right behind me, Tromgar, if you are not part of the XMG family, you should be part of that XMG family. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, all that other happy horse crap that goes along with it, but I just don't want you guys missing out on good content coming your way. So without further ado, let's get into Tromgar. Now, Tromgar is Clans, Orc, Defender, Dragon Slayer, and a leader. He is one of two leadership abilities you will find specific to the Orc faction. Quickly looking at his overall stats, before we put the runes on him, he has a physical damage of 25-21. His magic damage is at 947, but he does physical damage. His critical chance is at 18.6. His health is at 31,454. Physical armor is at 41.99%, and his magic armor is at 39.01%. His shield is at 33,907. His speed is at 110. His potency is at 25. Tenacity at 36, and lifesteal at 15. So overall, looking at his stats here, we know we got to put a little bit of speed on him. We want the tanks to be between the 130 and 120 range, and even if you put a little bit more speed on Tromgar, it's not the end of the world, but you don't want him blazing fast. His shield and health right now are sitting at about 64,000. We want to definitely bump those up. We want to try to get his magical armor up and his potency, just because I know his move kit. But let's get into his move kit and we'll go over and see why those are important. At level 6, his Crushing Blow deals 210% physical damage with a 35% chance to stun the target for one turn. This is why you want as much potency on Tromgar as possible. He can stun on his basic, and it is a crazy good ability, so you just want to make sure that we are always putting as much potency on him as we possibly can. We want to take advantage of all of that while we have the chance. Ability 2 is called Shield of the People. Tromgar assumes defensive stance. Another use of this ability switches to offensive stance. This effect cannot be prevented or removed. Changing stances applies counter, attack, and taunt for 2 turns. So this is why it's cool. When you get this to level 6, you can taunt right away, you can get up to counter trance, and then everyone's going to be attacking you, and you can start to try to apply the stunning off his basic. Third ability is Second Wind. Tromgar gains 2 regeneration stacks for 2 turns, removes all debuffs, and then he recovers 10% health. So we learned that health's important. He can heal himself, and he's also his own dispeller, which is really, really nice. His passive ability is when he's in defensive stance, his physical armor increases by 30%. And when he's in offensive stance, his physical damage increases by 30%. So having more armor on a character is always a good thing, especially if they're a tank. So that is nice. And his physical damage increase by 30% is okay. But I'm kind of going to go over why not going overboard with his damage is a good thing. And then his leadership ability. All allied orcs receive 30% potency and 30% tenacity. Whenever an allied orc inflicts a debuff, all orcs recover 5% of the health. So if you can't get a lot of potency on this guy, you could always put him as the leader. Now for me, he is not the most effective leader that the orcs have. He definitely has a viable leadership. And as I mentioned before about the damage. Now obviously you want physical damage because his first move is based off physical damage. But you got to remember, and if you're new to the game, which a lot of people are probably watching this, every time you counterattack or get called into an assist, your damage is not the same. It's only a percentage of your damage. What we're really looking for with Tromgar is the ability for him to stun. That is it. He's never going to do the type of damage you want him to do. In my opinion, he's one of the best damage dealing tanks in the game on a basic, which is great. But you want him to just be able to apply that stun. So giving up like potency or sometimes survivability to increase your damage isn't always the best thing. So what did we learn from his moves and his stats? We learned we got to get a little more armor and survivability, health, shield, and things of that nature on him. Now, when he's in defensive stance, he's going to increase his physical armor, but he's always not going to be in defensive stance. We learned that we got to put potency on this guy to put the stuns on. We learned that he dispels himself, and we learned that he can heal himself based off his max health. So we also have to keep in mind that any survivability second stats we want could possibly be health. So looking at his runes and what we could do is there's a couple different things. We could go all health runes, very free to play friendly, with focusing on primaries of you want to get a sprinkle of speed in there, you want to get him up about 15 speed. You could damage and potency. Potency being the #1 primary you want to look for. You could put potency sets on him if those are available to you, increasing his potency all the way around, again focusing on secondary stats of damage, speed, survivability. But I think putting all potency sets on this guy is just a little bit overboard. And you could put a tenacity set on him, you could put an armor set on him, so there's a lot of different things you could do. I am going to rune him, and I will be back. Okay, I am back with a full rune amulet, and I kind of went for the best of all three worlds. I have one health set, I have one armor set, and I have one potency set. So what does that effectively do? We're getting 20% bonus armor, we are getting 10% health, and we are getting 15% potency. So now that option might not always be available, like I said earlier, so putting all health on this guy is not a bad thing. I ran my Tromgar with all health for the longest time on my main account, so just keep that in mind. But I think this way we're effectively increasing his survivability and increasing his potency, and we're getting everything done we need to do. So let's go over the stats. Now again, we're looking for secondary stats of potency, survivability, damage, and we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of speed. So here we go. We have damage, armor, tenacity, damage, and potency. Then I went with the speed primary, potency, damage, health, and tenacity. Now this speed primary, I don't have to focus on any other speed because we put this on. This is my survivability rune. I went with armor, health, shield, and potency. Then I went with health, critical chance, damage, shield, and damage. I went with health, damage, critical chance, potency, 1 speed, but the 1.22% potency was nice. Then I went with potency as the primary here, with speed, shield, critical chance, and damage. I really wish this critical chance was like a health or something, but all in all, it's a good rune. So let's see what it did for his stats. So looking at Tromgar's overall stats, we brought up his physical damage by 129, and that's okay. I am okay with that. I mean, you could run him, if you have the chance, you could run him with 3,100, 3,000, 3,100 damage, but for the build we're putting together, his main thing is to survive, take the damage, and stun. So we're not looking for a big damage output from him. His health, we gained 5,188, bringing his total up to 36,642. His physical armor, we brought up almost 6%, the same thing with his magical armor, bringing his physical armor to 47.82% and his magic armor to 44.73%. We brought up his shield 1,453, bringing it to 35,360. We brought up his speed 26 to 136. I'm okay with this. Normally I wouldn't want to bring it up past the 130 mark, but with Tromgar, I'm okay with that. We brought up his potency 40.68%, bringing it to 65.68%. We brought up his tenacity 2.55%, bringing it to 38.55%. So all in all, extremely happy with what we did with Tromgar. We did what we set out to do with Tromgar. We gave him a little more physical damage, just as a plus. We got his health and his shield combined over 70,000 now, so that's big. We got his physical armor and magic armor above that 40% threshold. We got his speed into that range where you wanted to get it. I even got a little bit higher, and we increased his potency dramatically, and that's exactly what we want to do. So let's look at his moves and talk about scroll investment. Now again, we have all the abilities at level 2, because everybody should be able to take their abilities to level 2. So his crushing blow is his basic ability, and he deals 100% of physical damage to an enemy at level 2. The whole point of this move is to stun. We do not get the stun chance until we get to level 4. So let's keep that in mind, because you definitely want to get this to level 4 to get the maximum ability out of it. His Shield of the People at level 1, he assumes defensive stance, and this effect cannot be prevented or removed. Changing stance applies taunt for 1 turn. At level 2, though, it goes up to 2 turns. So only a green skull investment, and you've increased your taunt to 2. At level 4, we gain the counterattack chance. So again, we want to get this to level 4. And then at level 6, we get the cooldown reduced by 2, so he can start taunting right away. Third ability is Second Wind. We get 1 regeneration stack and a 60% chance to move a debuff. At level 3, it removes 1 debuff. At level 4, it removes 2 debuffs, and you get 2 regeneration. And at level 5 is when it starts throwing in the health. And then at level 6, it removes all debuffs, and you gain 10% health. So what you're looking for to start this thing is at level 2, you're already removing 1 debuff, and you get 1 regeneration stack for 2 turns. That is a good place to sit for right now, because when we go over priorities, Second Wind, although it does add a lot by removing all those debuffs. His passive ability, in defensive stance, you gain physical armor by 5%. When you're in defensive stance at level 2, you gain 10%, and offensive stance, you gain 10% physical damage. And for right now, with focusing on what we'd focus on for the runes, leaving this at level 2 to start is definitely okay. And his leadership ability at level 2, allied orcs receive 10% tenacity and potency increase. I am going to recommend you steer clear of Tromgar's leadership till the end. It's the very last thing I did on my personal account, and I didn't regret it. And you'll learn more when you watch the Rantha for Noobs, because I believe her leadership is more beneficial, especially for early game orcs. So, priority-wise, we know we have to get his Crushing Blow to level 4. We know that we have to get his Taunt to level 4 to put on that counterattack. Those are the 2 things you need. We know for his Second Wind ability, at level 2, we're okay sitting there for now. And again, with his passive ability, we're okay sitting at level 2. It's not the end of the world. So when you first get Tromgar, the first thing I would do is I would take his Crushing Blow up to level 4, and I stop right there. Then I would take this ability, his Shield of the People, up to level 6. You get it to level 6, you're golden. Then you would take his Second Wind ability from level 2 to level 4. Then you would go back, finish off his Crushing Blow all the way to level 6. Bump his passive ability up to level 4. Take his third ability up to level 6. Then finish off his passive to level 6. Once these 4 are level 6, then you can worry about his leadership ability. And that's how I would go about doing Tromgar. So everybody, I hope that helps you out. Just my quick revamped noob guide to Tromgar. Again, if you're not part of the family, be part of the family. Write me a comment. I'll always get back. Find me on Discord. My tag is in the description. I have been slacking and have not created my Discord server yet, so working on that as well. So that's all I got for you guys on Tromgar. Everybody be safe, have fun. I'm out.